$2.5 million. Most people spend their entire working life chasing that number. And when they finally hit it, when they finally sit down, look at that account balance and see 7 figures staring back at them, they think the hard part is over. It's not. In fact, for millions of retirees across America, that moment is where things quietly start to go wrong. Not with a bang, not with a market crash, just a slow, invisible leak, month by month, year by year, until one day, somewhere in their late 70s or early 80s, the math stops working. And nobody warned them. Nobody sat them down and said, having the money is only half the equation. Knowing how much to pull out, that's the other half. And that part? Most people get it completely wrong. I'm talking about something today that retirement advisors have been debating for decades. A number. One simple percentage that could be the difference between dying with money in the bank and running out before you run out of time. And if you have $2.5 million saved, or anywhere close to it, you need to hear this. Stay right here, because this is Senior Pulse US, and we don't sugarcoat anything. Let's set the scene. You worked hard. You saved smart. Maybe you were disciplined your whole career, maxing out your 401k, living below your means, skipping the fancy vacations so you could build something real. Now it's retirement. You've got $2.5 million sitting in your accounts. And the question hits you like a wall of cold water. How much can I actually spend every year without blowing this up? Most people guess, and their guess is almost always too high. Here's where the famous 4% rule comes in. You've probably heard of it. Back in the 1990s, a financial planner named William Bengen ran the numbers and found that a retiree could withdraw 4% of their portfolio in year 1, adjust that amount for inflation every year after, and historically, based on decades of market data, the money would last at least 30 years. 4%. On $2.5 million, that's $100,000 a year. Not bad, right? Sounds comfortable. Sounds like freedom. But here's what they don't tell you at the kitchen table. That 4% rule was built on a very specific set of assumptions. Assumptions that don't match the world we're living in right now. When Bengen ran those numbers, bond yields were higher. Inflation was more predictable. And most importantly, people weren't living as long as they are today. Think about that for a second. If you retire at 62 and you live to 92, which is increasingly common, you're not funding a 30-year retirement. You're funding a 30-year retirement while navigating what could be the most volatile, unpredictable economic environment in modern history. The math changes. The stakes get higher. And this is exactly where most retirees make the critical mistake. They latch on to that 4% number like it's gospel. They set up automatic withdrawals, they buy the boat, they book the trips. And for the first 5 years, everything looks fine. Because it is fine. The danger doesn't show up in year 1 or year 3. It shows up in year 14, year 17, when the market has had a couple of bad runs. Inflation has quietly eaten away at their purchasing power, and suddenly they're withdrawing 4% of a portfolio that's worth a lot less than it was on day 1. That's called sequence of returns risk. And it is the silent killer of retirement plans. So, what's the right number? What should someone with $2.5 million actually be pulling out every year if they want that money to last? Not just 30 years, but potentially 35, even 40. Many updated financial models, including research from Morningstar and updated analysis from the Stanford Center on Longevity, suggest that in today's environment, a safer withdrawal rate is closer to 3 to 3.5%. Maybe even lower if you're retiring early or have concerns about health expenses down the road. 3% on $2.5 million is $75,000 a year. Add in Social Security, which for a couple with solid work histories could be anywhere from $36,000 to $60,000 annually. And you're talking about a combined income of $110,000 to $135,000 a year. That's not deprivation. For most people, that is a genuinely good life. But here's the part that nobody wants to talk about, the psychological part. Because telling someone who has $2.5 million that they should live on $75,000 a year feels wrong. It feels like losing. Like all that sacrifice didn't pay off the way they imagined. And so they spend more. They tell themselves the market will come back. They tell themselves they'll cut back later, and later never comes, until it has to. I've seen this story play out, not in some textbook, in real families. A couple in their early 60s, both retired, combined savings of a little over $2 million. They were pulling out around 5% a year because they wanted to travel while they were healthy enough to enjoy it. Completely understandable. Completely human. And by the time they were in their mid-70s, they had burned through a significant chunk of their principal. The portfolio was still there, but it was fragile. One bad health event, one long-term care situation, away from real trouble. What could they have done differently? A few things, and this is where it gets practical. First, think in buckets. One bucket for short-term spending, 1 to 2 years of expenses in cash or stable assets. One bucket for medium-term needs, 5 to 7 years, in relatively conservative investments. And one bucket for long-term growth, money you won't touch for a decade, invested for real returns. This strategy protects you from having to sell investments at the worst possible time just to cover your grocery bill. Second, be flexible. The 4% rule assumes you pull out the same inflation-adjusted amount every single year, no matter what the market does. But real life doesn't work that way. When the market is down, pull back a little. When it's up, maybe give yourself a raise. Dynamic spending strategies, where you adjust your withdrawals based on portfolio performance, have been shown to significantly extend the lifespan of a retirement portfolio. Third, and this one is massive, don't underestimate healthcare. A 65-year-old couple retiring today will spend, on average, somewhere north of $300,000 on healthcare costs over the rest of their lives. That's not long-term care. That's just standard medical expenses. That number has to be baked into your plan from the very beginning. And fourth, reconsider when you take Social Security. Every year you delay past your full retirement age up until 70, your benefit increases by about 8%. That's a guaranteed, inflation-adjusted, government-backed 8% return. In a world where 4% from a balanced portfolio is considered generous, 8% guaranteed should stop you in your tracks. Here's the bottom line. $2.5 million is a tremendous achievement. It is real security, but it is not infinite. And the retirees who protect it, who actually make it last, are not the ones who spend the most in those first golden years. They're the ones who built a strategy, stayed flexible, and treated every withdrawal like it mattered. Because it does. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't fully thought through, do me a favor. Share it with someone you care about who's either already retired or getting close. Because this is the conversation that doesn't happen enough, and it should. This is Senior Pulse US, and we're here every week fighting for the financial dignity of every senior in this country. Hit that subscribe button, drop your biggest retirement money question in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't just retire, retire smart.